Liverpool 1, Manchester United 2. Ruben Amorim and his side went back to the tactical basics and his players executed phenomenally. And all in all, it got us an excellent result. So today we are going to waste literally no time. We are going to get straight into talking about the tactics which saw Manchester United winning this game. And we're going to start off with United on the ball, particularly playing out from the back, or actually the fact that we didn't. And this is what I talk about when going back to basics. When you see that Manchester United starting 11, you see players like De Ligt, Harry Maguire, Casemiro in the first phase, you are not expecting a United side which is going to play out from the back. And there was no surprise here. United pushed everyone forward very early on into high positions and looked to play the long ball from the goalkeeper. Just look at the passing map from Le Mans. Now you will see a lot of red arrows. That doesn't necessarily mean that his passing was bad. It just means that it's actually difficult to connect with a player when you are passing over 60 yards at a time. But Le Mans was very direct, and this really played into the idea that Manchester United were trying to execute. Now, on face value, this doesn't actually make a lot of sense as a strategy. Manchester United didn't start with a striker, with a focal point, with a 6'5" Benjamin Sesko. Instead, we had Cunha, and we were playing against Virgil van Dijk and Konate, two of the most aerially dominant centre-backs in the Premier League. So on face value, this doesn't make any sense at all. But Manchester United were not actually interested in winning that first ball, which is why Le Mans' pass accuracy was so low. So yes, he's sending the ball long and failing pretty much every single pass, because Liverpool were winning that first contact quite comfortably. The important thing always was that United were trying to pick up the second ball. And this is Ruben Amorim doing his homework about Liverpool. Something that we spoke about in our preview was the fact that the Liverpool front four can often be caught quite high, with two central midfielders then caught a little bit deep, opening up room in the midfield that we said United could potentially exploit. And we did by winning the second ball. So in a way it was kind of genius. If you can't beat Van Dijk in the air with a massive striker, don't even try to. Of course, Mbeumo was challenging some of them and putting them under pressure, and he actually did a very good job. But actually what United were even more interested in was not winning that first ball, but actually picking up the seconds with Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro, with them guys then possessing the ability to play forward. So Manchester United have sent the ball long from the back and not won the first ball, but have won the second contact in midfield with Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro. The question is, what do you do from there? Well, you apply basic logic, and if you just look at the pitch, we can see two areas where Manchester United are potentially going to have some success. Of course, on the left-hand side and also on the right-hand side, with a particular focus on the right-hand side. Mainly because we've got Amad and Mbeumo. I think Ruben Amorim deserves a lot of credit for this. I have sat here time and time again and criticised him for often playing two defensive-minded players in the wing-back positions. But Ruben Amorim went to Anfield, he played Amad as a wing-back, was very attacking with that selection, and I think Amad had an absolutely brilliant game. On the ball, I think he did a lot for this Manchester United team, but even defensively, I think he did so much work helping backwards, helping De Ligt. Of course, moments where he was caught out, it's not his natural game, but I think he played very well. And the important thing here was the tactical advantage that United had. Once again, the Liverpool front four were often caught relatively high up the pitch. So when Amad is picking the ball up in this position, Kirkesh, the Liverpool fullback, has a massive decision to make. Does he go towards Amad and allow Mbeumo to drift off the back of him? Or does he sit off and mark Mbeumo and allow Amad to drive at him? Ultimately, Kirkesh can only do one of the two things. Whatever he does, someone is going to be free. And of course, we could see the same on the other side. Dalot with the ball in a position like this, it draws Bradley towards him, and then Mason Mount actually has the room to get in behind and exploit that space. Now, of course, in the case of Liverpool, they are sort of fortunate because they can play in this way because they've got Van Dijk and Konate, two of the most athletic defenders anywhere in world football. So 9 times out of 10, you can put them into any football match. You can see the fullback drawn out. The ball can go into the space, but they have the athleticism to deal with it. And Konate on Mount was a bit of a mismatch. Konate dealt with this very well. On the other side, not so much. Bryan Mbeumo against Virgil van Dijk was a mismatch, but actually in the favour of Mbeumo. Van Dijk just didn't quite know what he was meant to be doing. He wasn't sure whether or not he should go tight to Mbeumo or whether he should sort of just sit off him and let him have the ball, because there was runners like Amad, we had Cunha dropping in and overloading midfield as well, which was very important with a lot of the second ball football. And this is what made United so dangerous, because the Liverpool defenders were never quite sure who they were supposed to pick up, and I think collectively the United forwards played very well, took their chances and punished Liverpool. By the way, if I could just quickly ask you guys to subscribe, please, that would be amazing. We're trying to push to 85,000 subscribers, and I could do with your help. So, please press subscribe. Now, realistically, if you are to go to Anfield and nick a win, you can't just be good on the ball and rely on your somewhat basic attacking play. You also have to be solid defensively, and Manchester United were very often set up in a 5-4-1, which is important, not a 5-2-3. We have seen that shape in the past, and we know that it leaves certain gaps. Here, outside of our central midfielders, and here, outside of our central midfielders. But we didn't see that in this game, because Mount on the left-hand side was willing to do his defensive work and drop deep, and Mbeumo, not quite so much, but did also drop a little bit deeper. And the challenge, sort of thrown at Liverpool for a lot of this match, was can you break Manchester United down? And for large parts, the answer was no. There were moments where they played through. That was actually when United sort of tried to jump and press a little bit higher. That's when we actually got picked off and Liverpool could get into good positions. But when United were actually compacting the block, Liverpool found it quite difficult to play through. And the reason for that was because partly I think the Liverpool squad building, they don't have a Trent Alexander-Arnold and a Robertson in the back four anymore. Two fullbacks who were incredibly progressive with their passing. Bradley and Kirkesh just don't offer the same value. Then what we saw was Gravenberch almost playing as a solo holding midfielder in midfield, and McAllister, Szoboszlai, Isak, players like that would move a little bit higher up the pitch like this. And the problem was for Liverpool, Manchester United were compact in the centre because Mbeumo and Mount were sort of connected with the back five, but also the midfield four. It was difficult for Liverpool to move the ball through. We actually often saw Cunha at times, rather than what you would expect from a striker, pressing the centre-backs. He was actually sort of tying up Gravenberch in midfield. And this is quite clearly that idea of United being willing to be defensive, getting lots of men behind the ball, happy to sacrifice possession, which you're able to do when you're 1-0 up. Scoring an early goal is so important. The game state is huge here. If United do this at 0-0 for 90 minutes, you feel like you're in trouble. But when you're protecting that lead, you've got that sort of cushion there for you. And this played perfectly into the hands of United, and they sort of earned the ability to do this by starting the game so fast. At this point for Liverpool, it's about breaking United down. In moments they absolutely could. The runs of Kirkesh and Bradley did cause some problems. Those two underlapping, almost penetrating through United, nearly created a couple of gaps. There were moments where Gakpo could get behind Ahmad, although Ahmad did work incredibly hard, to be fair to him. But I think the important thing for United was, whilst we were in the block, we were still trying to be aggressive. We have seen games where United sort of sit there and almost wait to be beaten, but that wasn't the case. We saw Liverpool really quite rotational with their positioning of the players. Someone like McAllister normally plays deeper, almost in a double pivot, but in this game he was playing really right on the last line. Isak was pulling towards the right-hand side a lot as well, which could have been a problem, but it wasn't. Because Luke Shaw and De Ligt actually did a very, very good job of sort of being aggressive and helping out the midfielders. So McAllister may move high initially, and then what he's going to do is he's going to drop off into the space to try and overload the Manchester United midfield. But I think De Ligt did a really good job of most of the time going with him. And on the other side as well, Isak peeling into this channel, you can see in his average position, he did play more towards the right-hand side, closer to Luke Shaw, but Luke Shaw was willing to go with him. So Casemiro may squeeze onto Szoboszlai, Isak may drop into that space, but Luke Shaw was always sort of within touching distance just to stop him getting away. Now, of course, we can't be too complimentary about the Manchester United defensive performance, because we did concede a lot of opportunities. Gakpo hit the woodwork about 34 different times during the game, and another day Liverpool should and would have scored more goals. I think if you play this game another 5 or 6 times, Liverpool definitely score a couple more goals. So we can't be too complimentary of United here, but ultimately, over the course of 90 minutes, defensively United just about did enough to sort of keep Liverpool at arm's length. Now, just the final thing that I want to talk about is the pure quality of the new Manchester United forwards. We all see the starting 11, we're a little bit concerned. There's no Benjamin Sesko, we don't have a focal point, we don't have a proper striker. Are we being defensive? All of that stuff. Possibly, that may have been your view. I was a little bit concerned looking at the 11 when it first came out. But ultimately, what you get with Cunha and Mbeumo, regardless of the amount of goals they've scored so far for United, you get just an incredible, seriously incredible footballing ability. Two players that are happy to take responsibility, two massive personalities, and really two sort of pressure relief valves for Manchester United. In the second half, we saw Slot really going for it. We're not going to go through the changes today, but he went very attacking. He went 4-2-4. He got 2 strikers on the pitch, played 2 very attacking midfielders, and really tried to overwhelm Manchester United. And with the Anfield crowd behind them, United could have quite easily sort of sunk into that, sat deeper and deeper, struggled to get out. And it looked like it was going to go that way. But then we saw Cunha and Mbumo as well. Mbumo also does a fantastic job. But Cunha especially, the way that he was taking the ball for United, there were sort of countless moments where we give the ball to Cunha and ask him to look after it against like 2, 3, sometimes even 4 players. But he's good enough to do it. And that is where Manchester United have massively increased the quality within this squad. Players like Garnacho last season couldn't have done this job, right? Just because they're not of the right level. Cunha is so good for United at just looking after the ball. And sometimes he might win a free kick, which of course gives the whole team a breather, which is crucial in this sort of football match. But sometimes he's genuinely going to drag us a good 20, 30 yards up the pitch. Now, the problem we've got still is they're doing so much work that by the time they get to the final third, they're shattered and they don't have enough teammates around them. Sometimes they're picking the ball up on the halfway line and Cunha's beating 3 or 4 players. He's combining with Mbumo. The two-touch football's really good. But they're travelling 40 yards, and by the time they get to the final third, they're sort of outnumbered and they're crowded out. But I think, again, if we're talking about game state, United being 1-0 up and then eventually being 2-1 up, I think these two do such a good job of just helping United out when we really look like we're suffocating. You need players that are going to look after the ball, and that is why experienced Premier League players, but also incredible technicians, are so valuable. All in all, regardless of the tactics, I always feel that in this sort of match, the result is the most important thing. I think when you play the top sides, it's just about getting a result. It's not about whether or not this is sustainable over 12 months. That's a conversation for a different day. But in terms of going away to Anfield, a very difficult place to go. It's about making yourself difficult to beat, and I think for large parts United did that with a more passive 5-4-1 block. It sort of stopped Liverpool playing in big open spaces like they love to do. On the ball, minimise the risks. We don't need to play out from the back. Let's go a little bit more direct. Let's play off second balls. Let's get the ball into the wide areas and see if we can test out that Liverpool backline. I think United did a very good job of that. The other thing that I was impressed by was the emotional response of the Manchester United players. Something that we spoke about in the stream before the match was the importance of being mature in the game. United were always going to face a setback at some point, and of course that came quite late with the late equaliser. Another United side in the past perhaps sort of collapses, goes under, concedes late and lose the match 2-1, maybe even 3-1. But we didn't see that. There was a sort of a grit to the Manchester United team, which is really good to see. And I think Ruben Amorim and his players deserve a lot of credit for that. They reacted very well and got themselves back on the front foot and got the goal. Yes, fortunate not to concede an equaliser late on from the Cody Gakpo chance. But honestly, I sort of felt that Manchester United deserved to win the football match. A lot of people will point to the expected goals and the momentum and the possession and the threat and things like that and say that Liverpool were the better team. But I actually felt that United tactically did a very good job. Yes, another day Liverpool probably score more, but I think United did enough to just sort of hold on, stay in there. I think, the bold decision at wing-back to play Ahmad, a bold decision not to go with Benjamin Sesko. I actually think that Ruben Amorim got it right in this game, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. Again, there's question marks over whether or not we can do this over a full season and whether it can be successful. But in terms of a one-off game, I just think it was absolutely brilliant. And like I said, all that matters is that we won. Manchester United went away to Anfield and came away with 3 points, and, say it quietly, with won back-to-back Premier League matches, which we don't do very often. So all in all, a very good day for Manchester United, and hopefully a huge confidence boost for so many of these players, and also Ruben Amorim as well. Hopefully this is now the platform for the team to keep building. But that, of course, is a conversation for another day. Right here, right now, there is nothing else to talk about, so I'm going to wrap the video up there. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, if you could please leave a like, subscribe, and get your notifications on, that would be greatly appreciated. But apart from that, we are finished, and I will see you in the next one.